Look at you tonight here on In Focus, Newzroom Afrika, Channel 405. President Cyril Ramaphosa has defended himself from any wrongdoing and went as far as denying that he ever used taxpayers' money for his own needs. He was speaking in Limpopo yesterday after allegations surfaced last week that $4 million had been stolen from his Palos farm in the Limpopo province. Ramaphosa explained that hard cash in foreign currency were proceeds from the sale of game and related business. A game farm is a place where game animals are raised to stock wildlife areas for hunting. Now, the term also includes a place where such animals are raised to be sold as food or for photography. But how does the handling of money work in game farms in accordance with the South African law on foreign currency and tax obligations? Joining us now for insight into these questions is Palos, CEO of the Confederation of Hunting Associations of South Africa. Stefan, good evening and thank you very much for your time and for joining us here on In Focus. How tightly regulated is the hunting business by authorities like SARS as well as the Reserve Bank and other authorities?
Good evening, Tabo. Good evening, listeners. I must first and foremost clarify that my personal mandate and the organizations I represent are the local hunters of South Africa, many hundreds of thousands of individuals that go out hunting on an annual basis for recreation and for the purpose of bringing some meat home for their troubles, not unlike a recreational golfer that spends his weekends on a golf course and occasionally wins a small prize at the club competition if he comes right. So that's my mandate. So when I was asked to appear today, I thought it was more hunting is a challenged activity generally, and I thought the subject matter was that. I didn't put the two and two together to realize it was the specific case of Palos and the incident with our president recently. I just need to clarify that. But to the question, how regulated is it by SARS? How regulated is it by the authorities, Reserve Bank? Look, the vast majority of hunting that happens in the country, the vast majority of the turnover is very small quantities by many, many individual hunters, customers to the many small, when I say small, average 1,000 to 2,000 hectare game farms and general farms with mixed game and wild and livestock out there. So it's a business that gets on in the rural community and has done so for generations. And that's an internal matter, and people pay rands for meat-related prices for the species they hunt. And I don't think that is in any way the kind of issue that has foreign currency implications or certainly not millions of dollars type of implications. The little bit of hunting that is done, it's smaller in quantum in terms of individuals doing it, but quite big in terms of value, is the incoming foreign tourist hunters. And that's a substantial part of the industry. It brings in tremendously good revenue to the wildlife industry in the country. Obviously, in foreign currency, it's as regulated as any other tourist industry is regulated in this country. Those clients come in. In fact, I would say it's almost more regulated because other tourists coming into the country hardly have to tell anybody what they're buying while they're here. The sheer nature of incoming tourist hunting absolutely requires that everything they take back with them, the proceeds of their hunt, their trophies, so to speak, are so heavily regulated, both in South Africa and in the destination country, the majority of it being the United States, I think over 60%. They've got such strict control rules on what the source of those animals are, the traceability of every individual, that I would say that on the hunting side of things, there's absolutely tight restriction on that. And the records stand there. You're welcome to question the Department of Environmental Affairs. They've got specific officials dealing with the numbers in this regard. I've no doubt SARS is also got codes for these things. The taxidermy and tannery industry and the dipping and shipping industries have all got their regulations, as does any shipping and forwarding industry in the world have.
Yeah. So, without even getting to the specifics of the Palos farm, but I want you to talk broadly about the range then that you refer to, the 1,200 hectare hunting farms. Is there any instance where those individuals who are members of your association, maybe even yourself, would need to handle to a degree, some amounts of hard cash?
Not from the local hunter, nowhere near that type of amount. I mean, I think the research has been done by the University of Northwest, the tourism research faculty there has done deep research into both the local and foreign average price paid per hunter. The local hunter's average spend per annum and the foreign hunter's average spend per annum. And if memory serves me correct, the on-farm spend of a typical local hunter that's a regular hunter is probably somewhere in the region of about 30 to 50,000 rand a year if he's a prolific hunter, and that would be spread over probably 3 different hunts to 3 different establishments. So it's an average of 10 or 12, maybe 15,000 rand per visit, no different to you going to a lodge or to an experience, any other kind of holiday experience, really. The foreign tourist, I think, is spending obviously substantially more per individual, but still probably not much more than about 200 to 500,000 rand, but obviously in forex, which is converted, etc. But it's still nowhere near that. The kind of animals that fetch huge money is iconic breeding animals. These tremendously good trophy quality breeding animals that are sold normally live, invariably sold within the country at auction sales. They are also well covered. The statistics are fantastic there. There's professors that have done long-term following. I think Prof. Flippy Klutzer from Bloemfontein, from Pretoria, Free State University, has got statistics on hunting, on wildlife sales, live sales, going back for some time now.
Yeah.
So the averages are all there. There's been times when, in fact, I think some years ago, our president was an underbidder and didn't succeed on one of the early stages where buffalo, for instance, went incredibly expensive. I think he put in a bid for about 18 million, but lost the bid to the winning bidder, but 20, I think, for that particular buffalo at the time.
Yeah,
and it
yeah.
made headlines because it seems strange. But it's no different to any other bloodstock or let's say, elite type industry. It's at that level, it is an elitist industry, and it does exist that a lot of captains of industry have invested in breeding operations more than hunting operations, I would say. And that could possibly talk millions there.
In your experience that at auctions, because of course as a game farm owner, you would now and again go and buy animals.
I'm not a game farm owner,
Oh,
you clarify.
All right. Do you represent game farm?
I'm a humble guy that goes and hunts a few impala every year so that I have some nice meat in my fridge and freezer.
Okay. Do you have any experience of what happens at auctions?
Yes, I've attended auctions. We work in conjunction with the other stakeholder organizations, including the Wildlife Ranching Organization that represents wildlife ranchers in the country. And we understand the industry intimately because it's an industry that faces many challenges.
Right, indeed. So, I mean, is there an instance where people come and buy game using money out of their briefcases, as in cash?
I've never seen it, and I would doubt it. First of all, I think in almost all instances that I've seen, there's about 4 or 5 major auction houses that specialize in game sales, and they're easily to trace. But in almost all instances, the big issue is to keep it cash-free, and to do everything by transfer, and you have to put up your deposits or be a known bidder before you can bid, and then settle after the fact by transfer. I mean, we know we're living in a cash-averse society. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't happen with private treaty sales, because auction is not the only way to sell something. But again, I'd be incredibly surprised. In recent years, the kinds of prices are a little bit flat. Obviously, the COVID times depressed the auction activity for a while. Maybe that led to an increase in private treaty sales, and how people settled the bill. Well, only time will tell if it's got anything to do with this instance. I would be surprised, bearing in mind that our president's interest in the game industry, although substantial, if you look at them, is a very small part and parcel of what our president's business is. I would say that he's a classic example that he's probably put far more into his game farm than he's ever managed to take out of it personally. But that doesn't mean that he hasn't got cash and assets, including livestock, involved in that enterprise of his at any one time. I think it's unfair to try and even commit a thought on that at the moment. It's so early days, and it just smacks of so many peculiarities. That whole story, there's so many loose ends to that tale that, as I said to a friend about this very instance this morning when I was describing what I'd understood it to be and had looked at the video footage, I don't think Hollywood can write what we go through in South Africa at the moment. So many peculiarities. So I'd really sit back and let, first and foremost, the president's people put out what they're going to say about it. And secondly, let the investigations that are due take place. And for the allegation made, let those that allege prove their case properly in a manner that is solid evidence. I did read the affidavit and I did look at the video footage. And the bigger fear for me as a South African is if a place like the president's can be so easily penetrated. We've got thousands of people living in rural Africa right now that are fearing for their lives.
Yeah.
And farm murders, that was the first thing that jumped out at me. If that's how vulnerable our security is, I think this country's got bigger problems than the devil of the detail of this particular instance.
Stephen Palos, appreciate your time and thank you very much for engaging with us this evening. That is the CEO of the Confederation of Hunting Associations of South Africa, Stephen Palos. What's making news?